All right, get this. We are diving deep into a Transformers movie review today.
Okay.
And no, not those explosion fests from a few years back.
Right.
This is about Transformers 1, an animated film that's getting some serious buzz online.
Interesting.
We're talking glowing reviews, Pixar comparisons, the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
So, buckle up, because we're about to find out if this movie lives up to the hype.
It's certainly intriguing how Transformers, I mean, it's a franchise that's been around for decades, right?
For sure.
And it's had its ups and downs.
Oh, yeah.
So to see a review praising this film's heart, animation, and surprisingly emotional story, well, it makes you wonder if they finally cracked the code.
Exactly. And what really caught my eye was the reviewer's comparison to the 1986 Transformers film.
Okay.
Now, that movie holds a special place in a lot of fans' hearts.
Right.
So is this new one trying to recapture that magic, or is it forging its own path?
It seems to be a bit of both, actually.
Really?
The reviewer mentions the '86 film as a point of reference, but emphasizes that Transformers 1 is very much its own thing.
Interesting.
What I thought was fascinating was the praise for the animation by Industrial Light and Magic ILM.
Oh, wow.
The reviewer calls the visuals vast and rich, highlighting the exciting action scenes,
Cool.
and praising Brian Tyler's score, which they say blends in perfectly.
Nice.
It seems like they've really gone all out on the technical side.
Okay,
Yeah.
but stunning visuals only get you so far.
True.
What about the story itself? Is it just robots punching each other, or is there more to it?
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The reviewer delves into the origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron, but not as we know them.
Right.
They were once Orion Pax and D-16.
Gotcha.
Us, working as miners on a Cybertron, facing a crippling energy crisis.
Hold on. Cybertron has an energy crisis.
Yeah.
Are we talking robots protesting for better energon benefits? This is sounding less like a kid's movie and more like a commentary on social structures.
That's the brilliance.
Whoa.
The reviewer hints at these parallels. They were saying how the film uses Cybertron as a reflection of our own world.
Right.
They mention a class system, social inequalities, and even allude to a deeper political struggle.
Wow.
We also get glimpses into things like the matrix of leadership, the prime lineage, and ancient enemies that threaten Cybertron.
Wow, this is way more depth than I was expecting from a Transformers movie.
Yeah.
The reviewer even mentions some contradictions with the Michael Bay films, but they seem to brush those aside pretty quickly.
Yes, and that's significant.
How so?
The reviewer seems to be saying that Transformers 1 isn't beholden to previous interpretations.
It's interesting.
It's respecting the source material while carving out its own space within the Transformers universe.
Okay.
It's a bold move, and it seems to have paid off.
So we've got heart, impressive visuals, and a thought-provoking premise.
It seems so.
But what about the humor? Is this something you could enjoy with the whole family, or is it strictly for diehard Transformers fans?
The reviewer specifically addresses this,
Okay.
stating that the humor is well controlled and avoids being overly childish.
Good to know.
They even admit to staying for the post-credit scene,
No way.
something they claim they never do. This suggests the film successfully balances its appeal, offering something for longtime fans and newcomers alike.
That's a relief. I was worried this might be too niche, but it seems like they found a good balance.
Right.
But what really caught my attention was the 8 out of 10 score
Yeah.
for a Transformers movie. Color me intrigued.
And they're very specific that this is an 8 out of 10 within the context of animated Transformers films.
Okay.
The reviewer even preempts any potential arguments comparing it to other animated films with cult followings.
Interesting.
This speaks to a nuanced understanding of genre and audience expectations.
That makes sense. They're basically saying, hey, I'm a fan. I know what I'm talking about. And this one surprised even me.
Precisely.
It carries a certain weight.
It does.
This is definitely piquing my curiosity.
I can tell.
But before we get too carried away, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
When we come back, we'll dive deeper into the characters and the themes of leadership that seem to be woven throughout Transformers 1. Don't go anywhere. And we're back. Still reeling from this Transformers 1 review.
Yeah, it's not what you'd expect.
It really isn't like...
But it is a refreshing change of pace, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes to show, like, how animation it can be used to tackle these, like, really complex themes in really engaging ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say, giant robot in the room.
Right.
How much background knowledge do you actually need to enjoy this film? What if your only experience with Transformers is the Michael Bay movies?
That's a great question. And luckily, the reviewer addresses this directly.
Okay.
They acknowledge that there might be some viewers who are, only familiar with the live-action films.
Right.
And they reassure them that Transformers 1 stands on its own 2 feet.
Okay.
They even use the phrase love letter to describe the film's approach to Transformers lore.
A love letter.
Yeah, like a real love letter to
Okay, now I'm really interested.
to the source material.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But this isn't just a nostalgia fest, right?
Mm.
What about the characters themselves? Are we talking like complex personalities here or just good robot versus bad robot?
this is where the review gets really fascinating.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about Optimus Prime and Megatron starting out as Orion Pax and D-16?
Yeah.
Well, the reviewer highlights their friendship as like a central, really a central element of the film.
Right.
They're not just mindless robots clashing. They're grappling with these really weighty questions about duty, sacrifice, and what it truly means to be a leader.
And all this is happening against the backdrop of a Cybertronian energy crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like these robots have a lot on their minds.
They certainly do.
Wow.
And that's what makes it so compelling.
Yeah.
The reviewer suggests that the film delves into, the intricacies of Cybertronian society, their history, their culture, and the internal struggles that really mirror our own.
Really?
It's not just a generic sci-fi setting. It's a world with depth
Wow.
and nuance.
Okay, let's circle back to that 8 out of 10 score for a second. The reviewers is careful to point out that this is an 8 out of 10 specifically within the context of, animated Transformers films.
Right.
What's the significance of that distinction?
What's fascinating here is that the reviewer is clearly a fan themselves.
Right.
They understand the baggage that comes with the Transformers franchise.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the downright bizarre.
Oh, for sure.
By setting that context, they're not just saying, this is a good movie.
Right.
They're saying, this is a great Transformers movie.
Yeah.
Which is a much higher bar to clear.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's like saying, look, I've seen it all, and this one surprised even me. It carries a certain weight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it speaks to a level of quality that goes beyond mere entertainment.
I hear you.
The reviewer even mentions feeling emotionally invested in these characters, something you wouldn't necessarily expect from a Transformers movie.
They laughed. They cried.
Yeah.
They even stayed for the post-credit scene.
Exactly.
For someone who hasn't really thought about Transformers since they were a kid, this is strangely compelling.
And that's the power of a well-crafted story, It has the ability to transcend expectations
Totally.
and remind us why we fell in love with these characters in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It can also make us think critically about the world around us,
Yeah.
even if that world is populated by robots in disguise.
This whole conversation has me thinking about the nature of leadership, both on screen and in our own lives.
Yeah.
What makes a good leader? Is it about power or something more?
Those are excellent questions, and it seems like Transformers 1 might offer some compelling answers.
Okay.
What's remarkable is how the film uses these fantastical characters and situations to explore these really universal themes.
Yeah.
Whether you're a robot or a human, the struggles of leadership, the weight of responsibility, the potential for both good and evil.
Right.
These are all things we can relate to.
It's that whole more than meets the eye aspect taken to a whole new level.
Exactly.
Before we wrap things up, let's take one last break. That's it. When we come back, we'll share some final thoughts on Transformers 1 and maybe even offer up a few questions for you to ponder long after this deep dive is over.
Okay.
Don't go away. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent this episode unpacking a surprisingly insightful review, I think, of Transformers 1. Who knew a Transformers movie could have us talking about leadership and social structures and
I know, right?
the power of storytelling?
It's really something.
It really is.
It's a testament to the idea that, that compelling narratives can emerge from, unexpected places.
Totally. The most unlikely
so
places.
You don't expect it.
So let's bring it home for a second.
Okay.
For someone listening to this.
Yeah.
Someone who might be thinking, Transformers? Really?
Right.
Why should they care?
Yeah.
What's the takeaway? What's the,
What's the nugget?
Nugget of wisdom we can extract from this deep dive?
That's the beauty of it, right? I mean, it's not just about robots.
Yep.
The reviewers experience their emotional response to these characters and their struggles.
Yeah.
It suggests that Transformers 1 is tapping into something
Deeper.
universal,
Right.
Yep. It's about the choices we make, the weight of responsibility, the potential for both good and evil that exists
Right.
within each of us.
So it's It's like looking into a distorted mirror. Right?
Yeah.
On the surface, you see robots and alien planets.
Right.
But beneath that,
Yeah.
you start to recognize reflections of your own world,
Oh, exactly.
your own struggles, your own potential.
Precisely. Yeah. And that's the power of allegory, right?
Okay.
Like, it allows us to engage with these really complex ideas, complex emotions, but through this, like, you know,
a different lens.
different lens, exactly. It can
Yeah.
really, like, go,
Sneak past our defenses.
yeah, sneak past those defenses and make us think about things in a new light, you know?
So what you're saying is, even if you think you're not interested in Transformers,
Yeah.
this movie might surprise you.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of staying curious, right?
Right.
You never know where you're going to find inspiration or insight.
Totally.
You know,
When it's-
this movie might spark a conversation about leadership,
Yeah.
about the challenges of our time,
Yeah.
or maybe it'll just be a fun couple of hours at the cinema.
Right.
But either way, it's a reminder that there's always more to discover,
Yeah.
even in the most unexpected places.
Well said.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Right.
it is time to wrap up this deep dive on Transformers 1.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope this episode has given you a new perspective on the franchise, on storytelling,
For sure.
and maybe even on yourselves.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never underestimate the power of a good story.
So well said.